if you give yourself a 5, you don't tend to see higher earning men with average looking women.
Like many people, I got the news about Kevin Samuels passing away last night. And first of all, as usual, condolences to the family and people that know him personally. I know people that know him, but I don't know people that know him personally. But I want to just, extend my love to everybody and the family. Now, I wanted to talk about kind of a controversial issue here from many aspects, because he was a controversial guy. And I was really up last night thinking about why this person is important and will be important, continue to be important. And I think it really comes down to the ideas. The first of all, I would say this guy is somebody who went every single night of his life that he was doing a show, at least, went on live interviews or live streams and spoke to people about things that they didn't really want to hear and had them swallow hard truths.
All right, what is the one thing you tend to hear? Some sort of, well, I'm doing what I'm doing right now and I'm in a waiting position. I'm waiting for, God to send that man to me.
Now there's kind of two audiences. There's people that kind of know about him but don't like him. There's people that love him. And I want to speak to both audiences of people today and say the work that he did was super, super important. Because, I'm sure like many people that are into space, okay, let's say the space of talking to young people who are developing, you get messages and letters every single day about people saying that they would have deleted or killed themselves or committed, something very, very bad to themselves. And you think to yourself, okay, why do I do this job? And sometimes, you wake up and the money's there, sometimes the money's not there. But you do it because of these messages that you get that tell you, the people tell you the troubles and tribulations that they went through and how they literally love you and how you changed their life. And myself personally, I know that I've coached tens of thousands of people face to face, and I've heard this thousands of times, literally. And so this work that we do, as cliche as it sounds, is going to be God's work. Does it mean that everybody's going to love it? No. Even seeing the phrase God's work is kind of weird. It sounds like cheesy to say what you're doing is that. But you really are making an impact in a lot of people's lives that would have no other resource to get that information or that change, or they've tried everything else that didn't work. So now they're here doing this, and it helps them tremendously. So, I think the work that Kevin did was incredible. He has an amazing body of work, an amazing catalog of work, and we are appreciative for that. Now, also, this is a guy who every single night, like I said, went on live streams and spoke to audiences who didn't necessarily want to hear what he had to say or his advice for them. Now, the first part of the naysayers are going to be like, well, he is somebody who was divorced twice or I don't know the situation exactly, so I can't comment on it. So that's like somebody who's flawed telling you to be perfect. No, he's not telling you to be perfect. He's saying that we could all do better and we could all elevate. So every night, this guy got on live streams and he spoke to people and gave them hard truth. And sometimes they didn't want to hear the hard truth. But in today's day and age of culture that is so correct politically, it's hard to give hard truths. And I appreciated watching him do it from afar and watching other people in that space do it from afar. To say things that I would usually say, to say things that I used to say, to say things that I still do say, but not in the same package. I appreciate people doing that on their platforms. It's important to have these voices, even if you don't like the manner in which it's being delivered. Sometimes it's important to have hard truth. I'll explain here why. When I coach students, I found there's many different ways. One way is to motivate people, and they're very happy to get motivated. That kind of wears off very quickly. The other part is to talk about the realities of the pain that they're going through and some things that are hard in their life, and to talk about what they necessarily, don't want to face. That's another way to motivate people. It actually creates lasting change, more lasting change than just motivating. So you need a voice in spaces that gives you cold, hard truths, whether that be in relationships, whether it be in social dynamics, whether it be in politics. You still need these voices. These voices are important. And when these voices are lost, we all lose a little bit of ourselves. We lose that courage to say things that are not easy to say, and we lose an important balance in that equilibrium. Some people will look at his body of work and say, he was a little bit mean some of the times, and I'm not sure everybody deserved it. Think about it this way. When you call into the show and you're trying to get advice to somebody, or give advice to somebody, and that person's trying to receive the advice, there's things we have called cognitive biases that block us from even receiving the information we want to receive. We have them all. From when you go to the bank ATM and you don't check your receipt to see how much cash you have left in the bank, when you have a bill that's past due, when you go on a date with somebody you shouldn't be on a date with. There's all kinds of things we have that are cognitive biases that stop us from actually processing what we need to hear. So that's where you get this confrontation in conversations. And it's important to have them. I think in life you have a bad result of life if you don't have those important conversations that are hard to have. So I want to thank Kevin for having those conversations. Now, the other thing that was important about him is he talked about value. And that's something I've been talking about for 6 or 7 years. It's not a new thing. I didn't invent value either, a high value. But the reason to talk about high value is not that high value is so important. It's that the idea is to elevate yourself. It's not to be obsessed with value or to be obsessed with making 6 figures a year. It's the idea of elevating yourself and being better than you were yesterday, or being better than you were last year, or trying to just be better than you are in general, right? Trying to be a better person for yourself primarily so you can enjoy it, and so people around you can enjoy that. You can bring them into your life and elevate them. That's the idea. It's not the obsession with value. I'm not walking around saying who has the value, this person has more value than me, who has the power in this situation. I'm thinking about elevating. And elevating is so important, and I rarely talk about this, but it's so important in the Black community, all right? Or even like the online Black community, or in the masculine and feminine online internet groups, all right? It's so important because many, many images that we have in this Black community is just do worse and be rewarded for it. What do I mean by that? Well, it's like, well, before rap, like back in the, what was it, the early 2000s, was like, I'm a drug dealer. Then in the 2010s, it's like, I take drugs. Now it's like, I'm so high. It's like, that's a positive image to look at. And the only other positive images you have are guys that are playing basketball, or guys that are, rappers, or maybe a few actors. But all these images that we have go to waste so fast. I think of like Chadwick Boseman passed away too soon. I think in the last week, Dave Chappelle, who's an amazing comedic icon, gets attacked on stage. I think of Chris Rock, who's got guys been doing it for 30 years, he's slapped on stage by Will Smith, who's another icon. And so many of our icons in this community constantly are in violence or digressing our progress or just insulting ourselves. But I think one thing that Kevin really tried to do was talk about self-elevation. And that's so important, it's an important aspect. And I think even the idea of it can be as simple as put down the spinning rims, put down the Glock, think about your career, think about having a family, think about having a wife, think about putting on a suit. The most simplest thing of putting on a suit. You know how hard it is to put on a suit every single day of your show? It's crazy hard. It's next to impossible. You know how many suits you need to have? A lot. I walk around on the tour when I'm doing my programs, I bring 5 suits with me, and even that's a lot to carry around with me, okay? It's impossible, it's really hard. But the idea of a suit is an external replication of your internal mindset. The idea of a suit means that you want to elevate yourself, okay? It means excellence. And particularly in this instance, I'm talking about Black excellence, which is not an image that we have a lot of in our society these days, right? It always seems to crumble or fall down before us, or these characters that are in that community go too soon. I woke up this morning and I saw a lot of slander videos on the internet, and I was so surprised that how many people were so excited to just jump on, make a horrible thumbnail and a horrible title and say bad things. Every day you wake up and you're part of this online community, you gotta think to yourself, do I even wanna be a part of it when you create content? As a creator, you don't even wanna be a part of it. I see things like, oh, this guy is gay because he dresses nicely. This guy's gay because of how he talks. And let me tell you, this really comes down to the stereotype of what it means to be Black. And let me talk about this for a moment, okay? What it means to be Black. For a long time, I didn't talk about Black issues because I felt unqualified. Now, how can I feel unqualified? First of all, I'm not an African American. I'm not. I'm actually Canadian. And I'm French Canadian at that. I'm a French guy. So what do you think about that? And then on top of that issue, I'm also mostly just like African descent. Like I'm actually African, like firsthand. So I have no place when it comes to talking about the African American experience, and I would love to. But to then say because somebody talks a certain way or somebody dresses a certain way, that person is not their race, they're not Black. That's like saying all Hispanics should be like walking around with stretch shirts, have neck tattoos, say essays, and should be narcos, and should have big Ray-Ban glasses with fitted caps. That's like racist. You're actually being racist towards your own group that you're a part of. So we have to learn, for whatever nationality you're part of, Black, Spanish, whatever you are, to say that person is, we're gonna insult that person because that person doesn't have certain aspects that we say are the standard. No. If anything, I love the outliers. I think Malcolm Gladwell made a book called Outliers, I believe. And the outliers are people that are individual, they don't fit in. They're Renaissance people, they don't blend into the cultural norms, they have little quirks, and they somehow find a way to make those quirks work for themselves and be the best that they can. I think Kevin did that with his suits and with his lighting and with his candles and his fragrances or whatever. And so you as a person watching this, think, you don't gotta be like me, you don't gotta be like somebody else, you don't gotta be like Kevin, you don't gotta be like whoever. Just find out what are the quirks about you and maximize those quirks about yourself and own those special abilities that you have that are taken for granted, that are not usually accepted by society, because each one of us has something beautiful to offer, even if society tells us that we're not that special. It's about tapping into it and finding it, owning it, maturing it, giving it growth, love, and taking action with it. So that is the importance of this man. And that is the message that I hope is received moving forward for the long term. You know, one of his most popular videos was "You're average at best."
What would you rank yourself on a scale from 1 to 10? You cannot use 7.
My face when I wake up, 5, but when I put myself together, 6.
If you give yourself a 5, that's average. The advice is, ma'am, you're average looking at best. You don't tend to see higher earning men with average looking women.
And I think that doesn't apply to just the reality of telling the woman, you know, where she was in terms of her expectations in a relationship scale, but also it goes to yourself. You as a viewer are going to be average at best unless you try to make yourself better and you work in self-improvement and you improve your health and you improve your resources financially and you improve your mindset and your view of the world and your self-respect and your boundaries. You as a person, we will all be average at best if we don't do that. So anyways, that's the importance of this man. That is the importance of his message. When anybody's around, they're definitely not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect myself. I do the best that I can. I'm definitely 100% not perfect. We try to separate the imperfects of the person versus their destiny, their mission, their purpose, and the positive impact that they're trying to have on the world. And that should be what is mostly left behind versus little squabbles you might have with somebody. Because I sure as hell woke up this morning feeling vulnerable in my own life and thinking, man, I gotta reach out to some people, I gotta connect with some people that I've been meaning to, I gotta say to some people that I love them while they're still around, so that opportunity is there before it's too late. Because we never know how much time we have on this earth. So I just wanna say thank you for watching. I wanna say thank you everybody that's putting in the work. I wanna say thank you everybody that believes in that message. And my prayers and thoughts with the friends and family.